the stage we're at now is to plane up the front surface and the back surface of our carcass so that the shells and the outside of the carcass are all in line, that we haven't got any imperfections in the flushness of those components. So that's what we're going to do now, and I have been back to the workshop. I've put some effort into making my plane razor sharp because we want to take shavings off here that are as thin as a fairy's wings, that thin, and you can't do it with a blunt plane, so make sure your plane's sharp before we start on this next section. The first thing I'm going to do is to check that my blade is sticking out equally either side. I'm going to do it by feel first of all. That feels pretty good. But I'm going to try it out on a piece of wood on one side of the plane and then the other side of the plane, just to check that the shavings are the same thickness. So that's how thick they are. A bit too thick if anything, so I can just wind it back a bit. Remembering finishing off on a clockwise turn. And they're very similar. So I'm happy that my blade is sticking out equally either side there. This is a bit experimental and I don't know if it's going to work, but what I've done is to set a piece of wood in between the jaws of my Workmate. I'm also using my orange stops as a surface to lean the carcass against, and I'm hoping that that will be sufficient to enable me to plane up whichever bits I need to work on. That's going to be tricky, but I can take one of those out actually. Yeah, that should, I hope that'll do it. We'll see. I'm going to start off by looking to see which of the components are high and which of the components are low. So we're working on the back, which is the safe side to work on. I've discovered that the top component of the carcass is higher than the side. The side is slightly higher than this shelf. The side is slightly higher than this shelf. And the bottom is slightly higher than the side. So we'll start off planing the bottom shelf from the outside towards the middle, stopping the cut at about here so we don't break this out. Let's see if this works. I'm resting the plane on the work, and I'm not at the moment going to take any deeper cut off than that. I think we go a whisker higher. And if you noticed, the angle of the plane is making use of as much surface as possible to keep the sole of the plane reference against a flat edge. That's perfectly flush now and I can stop. This is slightly higher than that. I can go back to that in a minute maybe. I can come back this way because this is higher than that. So I'm coming back, I've got the plane at an angle. I'm using the rest of the carcass as a guide. What I don't want to happen is for this surface to be cushioned. So I'm going to keep on working on that bottom surface. This is higher than that, so I'm going to just take that down a minute. You can hear it's not keen being plain that way, but it's at the back, so I can afford to be a bit bold. And now I need to go back because this might have been lifting the sole of the plane, so we haven't attacked this bit yet. So there we go. A little bit more cut. That's better. Now you can hear, as I'm going over here, there's a crunchy noise, and this is beginning to break out. And I don't want to be going across the grain if I can possibly avoid it. So I'm going to just take a bit more of that off. I'm also going to come back this way while I'm at it to get the other side of that off. I'm starting my cut pretty much where that join is, so I'm not going across the grain here. Right, we'll go back, take a little bit more off here. Notice I'm not going all the way across because this would split out. Good, well that's nice and flush. This could do with a little bit more off. That feels good. This could do with a little bit more off. Notice how this is splitting out. Got to be careful. And that is finally where I want to be, I think. I'm just going to check that I haven't cushioned it. I don't want this bit higher than these two ends. No, if anything, the two ends are higher than the middle bit. But we'll leave that alone for the moment, I think, because these are nice and flush. Now this shelf is lower than the side bit, so I've got to plane all this off up to here, but not there. We'll do the top bit next, I think. So the same process. This bit is higher than that bit. Plane at an angle. So I'm using this as my reference edge to keep my plane nice and in line with the rest of the carcass. But I also have got to watch out that I don't scoop that out. So it's got to be a compromise of starting off on this edge, but then turning the plane round as I go across, so that I'm keeping this nice and flat. And we haven't quite got down yet, so I'm going to take a bit more off. And now we can have a go at this component. No, this is higher. We've got to do a bit more on there, or do a bit on there. So just take that. Right, crunchy noise, so be careful. And it says to me, I was taking it across the grain there, so we're down level there, otherwise it wouldn't have made a crunchy noise. Let's just try this bit, see which is high. It's a bit difficult to feel. Now, we're going to use the right hand side of our blade. We're going to look through the throat of the plane and just check it's only the right hand side of our blade that's going along this edge, because if I'm going across this shelf here, I want it to be supported as the plane blade passes over this, because I'm going across the grain. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to crunch this and break it up. Actually, that's pretty good already. I'm going to come back this way. This is lower than that, so I've got to take some material off the side bit. So I'm using the left hand side of my blade now, so that if I hit this shelf, it's not going to break it up. Now this is looking good. I'm just going to check that I haven't planed that off flat. Let's just see. Right, that's nice. So this is dead straight. Now I've got a little bit of a high bit here, which I can take off. That's very good. That's good. And this isn't cushioned either, although I haven't worked very much on this yet, and we've got a bit of a high bit here. So let's just work on that top bit. Pretty much there, using the left hand side of my blade, and that's nice and flush. This is flush. This is not quite flush. Let's take a bit more off there. And I'm taking the blade off sideways before it hits this end bit, so I'm not going over the end there. Yeah, they're looking good. Got a little bit of a discrepancy here. This is a bit lower than that. I'll come back this way. Using the left hand side of the blade. And if you listen carefully, you can hear when it's going over the cross grain. So now, this is looking much better than it was before. Everything's settled down nicely. This is still a little bit high. If you notice the pencil mark there, I can plane it until I get rid of that. Not going to go across there, that's dangerous business. This is now taking some of that pencil mark off. That's most filth by going across the grain, which I'm not comfortable with. So we'll come back this way. Going diagonally, so I'm getting the best or the worst of both worlds, really. And that is now flush. And notice the shavings are really thin. Having had our practice, we're going to do the front edge, and this means that we've got to be really careful. But because this is our face side, I've taken a little bit more care to get this absolutely flush, so there shouldn't be quite as much work to do. That's where we want to be, and if you have a look, the whole thing looks really much neater apart from anything else.